Imagine a world where more women had the time to fully explore their genius. Welcome to She Rebel Radio, a community-driven podcast dedicated to supporting women leaders to unlearn conventional rules and create their businesses of significance. This is our International Women's Day Inspire series with our headline partners, Natwest. Natwest has been a pioneer in supporting women in business since 2019. We have 10 new guests sharing their stories with you to inspire, to educate, and to empower. As you navigate this series with us, I'd love for you to consider, what is inspiring you for 2024? How do you personally make it work as a woman in business? And what change would you make to your industry to inspire more inclusion of women? My name's Lulu Minns. I host retreats and create spaces for women leaders to explore their genius. And today, I'm going to create that same space right here for you on this podcast. Welcome to episode 139 of She Rebel Radio, Inspiring Your Finance with Roxanne Goodman. Roxanne is the founder of Female Founder Finance, who are dedicated to creating a more inclusive and equitable environment for female founders to access finance and thrive. Launched in June 2023, Female Founder Finance is the UK's first female-led commercial finance boutique, providing female entrepreneurs with access to the first female circle of commercial investors in the UK. Roxanne is highly experienced in finance, having been a director at Goodman Corporate Finance for over 13 years. She's also recently been promoted to the managing director and, of course, advocates for the report by Natwest in 2019, which highlights that women entrepreneurs represent a 250 billion opportunity in the UK that's not being fully utilised, partly due to women's lack of access to finance. Roxanne, it's amazing to have you here. How are you doing?
Thank you. Thank you for asking me. I'm doing good. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure and such an important mission that you have that we've been talking about on She Rebel for some time. So it's really good to have you.
Thank you.
Now, what was your inspiration for beginning the journey with Female Founder Finance? What were some of the conversations you've had with female peers and some of the statistics that motivated you?
It was actually it was International Women's Day last year. With my role at Goodman Corporate, I really wanted to do something to try and make an impact on International Women's Day. So I wrote a magazine article. I contacted 5 females within the commercial finance industry that I'd known for a long time, that we work really closely with other funders and professionals.
Yeah.
And I just started putting this article together. I sent out a list of interview questions to each of them. And when the feedback came in and all their responses came back, I was just blown away by what they'd said and the problems that they'd encountered working in the commercial finance industry, clients that they'd worked with that had faced massive barriers with being a woman in finance. So I put it all together in the article, and when it went out, the response that I got on LinkedIn just blew my mind. I was like, how can all the women that work in our industry all have come across the same barriers and the same unconscious bias, and someone really needs to try and help stop this from happening.
Yeah.
So it took me a while to think about how and what I was going to do. Obviously, Goodman Corporate Finance has been the family business for a long time. Then I went out on Friday night, so I'd not long had a baby. First night out after, and cocktails flowed, and then I was like, hang on a minute, I've got to set up Female Founder. We've got to build a support system to try and eradicate the unconscious bias, which was the main theme through everything that I'd been researching.
Yeah.
Obviously read the Rose Review. The 250 billion that you highlighted in your introduction is such a phenomenal amount of money. Got to try and do something to help. So spoke to Martine, my co-director, the following Monday. She was instantly, okay, this is amazing. I've got to come and do this with you. So we set up the company, started working away in the background for 3-4 months, and then we went live in June last year. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind, to be honest. We're only 8 months in.
Yeah. I love
Yeah,
that just shows as well, Roxanne, your story about the motivation there that International Women's Day does make an impact because we can, set out in doing something. It's the same with I was sharing before we hit record with you, wasn't I, in terms of
yeah,
the background of She Rebel Radio, and I was going to share the first 30 episodes for International Women's Day in 2020, and then that's turned into a series every year, sponsored by NatWest, is the thing that we're most known for. So we kind of start something and it really rolls because of International Women's Day that creates impact for other
yeah,
women. So I love
yeah.
that as your story.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just such a key date of the year, and everyone should all rally around women, or we should all try and raise each other up. It's not about competing with each other or trying to outdo each other. I genuinely believe that it's the day when we should all be there, just all celebrating each other.
Yeah, that collaboration piece,
Yeah,
which I call a feminine principle quite a lot. And we can throw a few cocktails in as well. I love that
yeah,
that's part of your story too.
yes.
Definitely. Now, tell us more about your overall aim and the gap that you are trying to close at Female Founder Finance, which I keep on calling FFF because there's lots of Fs.
FFF. There is lots of Fs. Yeah, I'm not sure. Didn't realise that was going to happen until afterwards, but that's fine. So the strategic end goal for the business is to have created a complete female-centric ecosystem to allow female founders to thrive, closing the gender funding gap and contribute towards a diverse entrepreneurial ecosystem. Obviously, the more women-led businesses that are trading successfully in the UK, the better for the economy, creates jobs. We all know that women back women. So women are more likely to employ other women, adding back to the economy again, supporting families in the UK. Women back women. So female investors are more likely to invest into female founded companies. So it's just about supporting the whole ecosystem.
Yeah. And women get women, don't they? So
Absolutely.
we understand. But do you think, you've been in finance for a long time. I've, been in the coaching industry for a good 10 years, and I was in the legal industry for 11 years before that. Do you think we've seen a real increase in women backing women, supporting women, say, compared to the earlier part of our careers?
Absolutely. When I left school, I went to college and I was only one of two girls that did business studies and maths. Um, but I didn't really think about it at that time. I was just like, that's what I want to do. So I'm just going to go and do it. It's not until later on when you think back, actually, there wasn't any girls in the class that did that, or there wasn't many of us that went off and followed a career in finance. In fact, I think I was the only one.
Yeah.
um, yeah, but it's not until you think, actually, why was that? Why wasn't there anybody else that wanted to do it? Is it because there's not enough education in schools that women can go and start businesses? Is it that there's some kind of hesitancy, like, oh, I'm not going to be good enough, or just general lack of awareness? I think, but I do think it stems from a younger age, certainly.
Yeah. And then I think, do you think, that there were definitely women in criminal defense and litigation where I was, but definitely less. And, a
Yeah,
lot of those women, it was not their full time because they had kids and it's very
yeah,
difficult to job to do. And I've been talking to a lot of women, certainly on this series of the podcast and also at the panel event that we held with NatWest, in terms of that naivety that we can go into these more male dominated environments. Certainly when we're young, we don't actually realize, as you said, with the research that you undertook last year with International Women's Day, some of the biases, we don't even see them ourselves until we start thinking about it or talking to people
yeah.
about it. And then we start to notice.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly it. We've got some fantastic male advocates within the business that are absolutely supportive of what we're trying to do. Some really high profile men within the commercial finance industry that understand that there are problems and they want to try and help, but obviously it's more difficult for them to wave the flag being a man
Yeah.
in the finance industry. So it is definitely about collaboration for sure.
Yeah, and I've noticed, with the podcast and the work that I do with women, and coaching and supporting women, that a lot of men have become so much more interested and supportive
Yeah.
of that, Natwest included, with our events and as well as the podcast. So I'd love to hear more about, some of this unconscious bias. On your website, you share a statistic that 30% of women seeking funding encounter gender bias from investors. And I'd love to know more about what kind of bias are we talking, blatant sexist comments, or is it something more subtle? Like I think I've read somewhere before that women are asked more risk-based questions and men more growth-based ones.
Yes. So it's absolutely not blatant sexism. I would never imply that any of the men that work in our industry are in any way, shape, or form dealing with women like that. But it is, for me, it's the unconscious bias. So it's the different set of questions. There was a Forbes study recently that I saw on LinkedIn, and they did some research, and they actually proved that there are a separate set of questions for female founders, exactly like you've said. Some are risk based, some are growth based, some are the females that we've spoken to, they not intentionally, but they felt like they were at a disadvantage straight away because they were automatically asked, well, how are you going to run your business when you've got kids? How are you going to manage the time? How are you going to do the school runs and grow your business? The money that you're asking us for, how can you prove to us that we're going to get our repayments as and when they fall due? Because what if your kid's sick, or what if something happens at home and your business isn't your main focus? And I think that's really unfair.
Yeah.
As women, I know I'm a full-time working mum and I've got a 5-year-old now. It is a balance. It's a really hard balance to get to. I'm scaling a business. I'm MD of another really successful business, and I've got a 5-year-old and a house to run and a husband and my family and everything else that goes with that. But I think that's what makes us really good at running businesses, because we can balance, we can juggle, we know what we're doing. We've managed family income. We've got the I think it's just the all-round ability to multitask that makes women strive more, if that makes sense, to
Yeah.
make the business a success.
And that knowing how to prioritize, and
Yeah,
also, for the length of time that I've worked with women, and it's something that I teach women in terms of our growth cycles, our 7-year growth cycles, as I like to call them, is that women don't create balance day to day either. They create it through different phases in their life.
yeah.
And we are quite unique in that, and expert at that as well. So it's really interesting to hear, and that Forbes have a report. I think you recently also attended the Gender Index Forum, and you said that pound for pound, female founders are returning profit and growth in finance way ahead of male-led businesses.
Yeah.
What else did you learn there?
So data, obviously, the gender index is the work that they're doing is key to highlighting the issues that female founders are facing. They said that pound for pound, female founders return 3 times the investment that male-led businesses make, which again is, I think, down to the hard work and the drive and the ability. They don't want to let anyone down. They don't want to be seen as failing. So they push and push and work so hard. The networking, I think, is key. There was a speaker, another lady there, and she highlighted some work that she was doing at one of the universities. And you never know who's in the room. So while you're at events or networking, and whilst you might think, oh, do you know what, I haven't really got time for this. I've got other things I could be doing at home or at work. It's vital, I think, to always have your pitch nailed. Always be aware that somebody that could change your business is in that room and want to listen to you.
Yeah.
I was also at a NatWest event with Farringford Legal a couple of weeks ago in London, and the people that I was speaking to while I was on stage have been inundated with help requests and connections and people wanting to talk more about finance. So I genuinely think that the data is key to
Mm.
spreading awareness.
Yeah, and as you say, that importance of network, which we also found with the She Rebel Radio and Natwest event that we do, that's become a thing every year before the podcast series goes live. And, there were fantastic conversations going on in the room in terms of, one of the authors we had on the panel saying that they could put another author in touch with an agent. And again, as lack of access to finance, previously women have had lack of access to really powerful network and those rooms where those conversations really make a difference. So I think that's a really important point.
Yeah, yeah. And women do network differently to men. They don't spend all day on the golf course, or they can't go out down the pub with their mates at night because we've got families and things that we need to get done as well. So I do think the networking is very different for female founders.
Yeah, and creating those spaces is fundamental. And it's something that I
Yeah,
missed out. I've probably mentioned it on the podcast before, but all my colleagues in the legal profession would go and play golf, and I did everyone's court list, and I didn't realize the importance
yeah,
of the conversations that were happening on that golf course where I
yeah,
wasn't included.
yeah, exactly.
I think I only read this recently, but from the UN chief that there is for United Nations, there's an Invest in Her campaign, and I saw a quote: "Investing in girls is our common future," and that it's women who really do create a better world. Do you believe that's true? And if so, how?
I do. Um, yeah, there's a campaign that's I've been invited to be part of called Invest Her. That's
Hmm.
all come about because of the recent changes in the high net worth investment thresholds that are going to heavily impact the angel community and therefore impact the female founders that are looking for funding. So I'm sure that the government recently changed the threshold of being able to qualify as a high net worth
Hmm.
from £100,000 income a year to 170, which automatically reduced the pool of angels down to by 91%, which is a massive amount of women that now can't invest in female founders
Wow.
despite the fact that they really want to. So there's a campaign. It's the Invest Her campaign. They are trying to get the Chancellor to review or overturn that element of the legislation.
Yeah.
Nobody knows at the minute how severely that's going to impact the ability for female founders to seek funding because it's all happened so recently. It was only January that this all came into force. So I think
Right.
that's going to be really, really, really key to how things are managed, certainly going forward for the rest of this year, if nothing changes with the legislation.
Yeah, and it's it's that kind of government making quite male led and masculine based decisions, whilst there's women in government. Obviously we know that they are outnumbered, and we had similar things in the pandemic in terms of more male led businesses being opened up more easily than say female led ones, such as beauticians and nail
Yeah.
salons. You could go and get your beard trimmed, but you couldn't go get your nails done.
Yeah.
um or go to a football match, but you couldn't go to a yoga studio, which again tends to be more female dominated businesses. So it's
Yeah.
interesting that again decisions is being made without the thought of the impact. Who is the Invest Her campaign being led by? Is that the United Nations or?
No, it's a group of women that I was introduced to at the NatWest event. They joined me into their WhatsApp group, and it all kind of spiraled from there. Some really, really high profile women within the gender equality sector that are really striving to make a real change.
Yeah, amazing. And 91% is a huge
Huge
amount.
amount of money. I think if you there were some stats that were shared online, there's not one single woman in Northern Ireland based on tax return data that earned 170,000 in 2022.
That's just
Not one
wiping that
single.
out.
So there's not. So what are you going to do if you've got a business in Northern Ireland?
Mm, yeah, 100%. That's so
Yeah.
interesting. Thank you, Roxanne. And for the amazing work that you're doing. What else have you been doing at Female Founder Finance? What are some of the inspiring conversations, the shifts? Are there any positive shifts that are occurring? How can we be inspired as women by access to finance for 2024? Hopefully it's not all doom and gloom.
No, hopefully it's not all doom and gloom. I every day I the my favorite part of the day is speaking to my clients. I love hearing the journeys that they're on and the stories that they've got to tell me, problems that they're facing with accessing the finance, discussions that they've had obviously before they've spoken to me, about speaking to the bank manager. Can I have an overdraft? It's not really what you need, but that's all that they think's out there.
Mhm.
So there was my very first client that I took on last year. She was bringing goods in from overseas, but had never even heard of trade finance. So I was like, right, okay. So explained how it worked. So now she's got a trade facility, online trade facility, and her turnover's gone. She's tipped £1 million turnover last year purely because of having that better understanding about the financials of the business and the things that you can have to help scale.
Yeah.
And I genuinely love helping. I love speaking to them and the passion and the purpose for the reasons that they've created their business.
Mm.
It's just so inspiring. They're all inspiring. They're all on their own personal journeys to try and solve problems that they've encountered. I was speaking to a lady earlier on this week. She was struggling with some medical issues. She's very, very high up, PhD in bioscience. So she's come across this product that she's converted into a tablet to try and help remove the need for people to be on antibiotics for so long. And it's things like that that just overwhelms me a little bit, because I feel like as women, we are so intelligent and we have got the drive, and we just need to be more educated about things that are available out there that can help us to get to where we need to be.
Yeah.
So that's why I just genuinely love talking about it.
Yeah, it's that real heart-based
Yeah,
leadership, and reason of having their business. And I think it's really important that you highlighted there that education. Do you find, that women do tend to bootstrap more because that's kind of all that we know, and that there's a lack
yeah,
of education there. And I grew up with my parents, certainly my dad's not from that world anyway, and my mum, and that I grew up with them bootstrapping a business. That's the only way they knew really. They didn't really know about different options of finance.
yeah, exactly. I'd say probably 99% are of the businesses before we obviously put the finance in place are bootstrapped, and the female founders do use that term, so they do understand that they are using their personal credit cards and savings and borrowing from friends and family to bootstrap the business to where they really want to get it to. But then that's only like a finite amount of money. What do you do when that's gone?
Yeah.
If you can't borrow anymore from your parents, or you can't, your credit card's maxed out, there's a whole world of other options out there. And it's absolutely education and raising awareness.
Yeah, yeah. Where's a good place to start if someone's listening and feeling like that? Apart from talking to you.
Talking to me,
Yeah.
obviously, yeah, I love. There's the Invest in Women Hub that was recently launched. There's a lot of work that's gone in with NatWest as well, and that's live online. So if you are a female looking for angel investment or VC or network support or funding, there's all different hubs on there that you can reach out to people to talk to. Obviously, if you're looking for finance, come and speak to me, reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn, social media, or pick up the phone. Phone numbers on the website, or email me. I'm more than happy. As I've said, I love talking to female founders, and I love being involved in the journey that you're going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm more than happy to support anybody that's looking, even if you're not at the stage where you definitely need funding, but you think you might in 6 months' time. It's never too early to start thinking.
Yeah, it's good to think those few moves ahead, isn't it? So
Yeah,
we'll put your website at the bottom in the show notes so our listeners can easily contact you. And what is your website?
it's femalefounder.finance.
Brilliant, brilliant. But before we go, I would love to know, thank you for all the information that you've shared, Roxanne. It's really inspiring and important work that you're doing. What is inspiring you for 2024?
That's a really good question. I would love to I'd love to see more job creation, I think, for female founders this year. Obviously, last year was a big launch year for us, an instant influx of clients, which obviously proves that there's a need for the work that we're doing.
Yeah.
But I think obviously job creation and women backing women, women employing women, adding back to the economy, I think it's only going to be good for UK PLC for that to happen.
Yeah, definitely. And how have you mentioned a little bit about how you personally make it work, as a woman in business with a 5-year-old and running 2 businesses. What is there anything else that you can add in terms of some tips for any of the listeners there, and anything else you would change for women in the world of finance as well?
I think tips from my perspective, because we went out with such a bang when we launched a business, it was very overwhelming very quickly. So I did have some help. I now have a well-being coach that works with me full time. So she slots into my diary micro moments so she can see if I'm getting stressed or under pressure. So we'll go and roll the Pilates mats out and have 10 minutes and try and stretch off and just be a bit more mindful. I think that's really important, especially if we've got the pressures of family life and the pressures of scaling a business and everything else that goes with both of those roles of being a full-time worker and a full-time mum.
Yeah. Yeah,
My
it's
pressures,
important.
my pressures did change slightly because my little boy started school in September, so that was a big add back into my day. Um, but I do definitely think you need to be very aware of that you don't hit burnout, that you don't overexhaust yourself. Just be very mindful of the fact that you do need a break and you do need to look after yourself as well.
Yeah, and I think you make an important point there, Roxanne, that when women are holding so much space for others, it's having a coach, and that's the work that I do, is, someone holding the space for you
Yeah,
because you're holding so much else.
yes, exactly. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Roxanne, for sharing with us and being on She Rebel Radio.
Thank you. Thank you, Lulu.
But before we wrap up the series, I'm just going to touch in with Luke, who is the current London and South East Regional Ecosystem Manager for Natwest, our headline partners for the International Women's Day series for this past 3 years. Day to day, Luke is pivotal in supporting entrepreneurs and removing barriers, allowing them to start, scale, and grow. Together, we co-hosted our second Women in Business event in Bishopsgate in London on the 19th of February with another amazing panel of She Rebels with amazing feedback from our audience. Luke, how are you doing?
Yeah, very well. Thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm good. And it's really good to come together to wrap up the series, which is a real collaboration between me and, yourselves at NatWest.
Yeah, definitely. As I said, it was a fantastic event and yeah, fantastic podcast series yet again.
Yeah, thank you. And at our Women in Business event, we explored inspiring inclusion, which is the theme for International Women's Day, through story and feminine-based principles. What was the takeaway for you from the event?
Yeah, so lots of key takeaways from the event, to be honest. But I reckon if I was to hone in on one in particular, I think it was definitely inspiration through balance and integration. And it was recognizing the value of integrating those feminine-based principles that were discussed into leadership and organizational practices to create a more balanced and holistic approach to problem solving and decision making.
Yeah.
And I did also like the authors that were on the panel and the ability to leverage the power of storytelling and using it as a tool for change. I really, really thought that was quite a powerful takeaway from our event that we had.
Yeah, brilliant. And yeah, that integration piece, it's not that we need one or the other, it's the balance of all of those things. And yeah, story, I think, illustrates, so many things that we can take away in a less linear way than maybe previously
Yeah,
businesses.
definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
100%. So yeah, thank you for holding space for us for the event, and the feedback that we got was amazing. So what have you loved about this new series and the stories from our guests?
Yeah, as I alluded to as one of my sentences a minute ago, I think this series has been the best yet, and I've personally loved the journeys that all of the entrepreneurs have been on. Firstly, I think when we look at empowerment, each episode we've witnessed women breaking barriers and challenging stereotypes, which I've found incredibly empowering and inspiring. And I think secondly, when we look at all the guests that you've had on the podcast, they've all commented on the supportive community that they were a part of, some being a part of the Natwest Accelerator program and some a part of other programs and initiatives that are out there. And I think that just goes to show how being a part of a like-minded network and community can really encourage and foster a sense of belonging and inspiration. And I think finally, then the impact and purpose that they're all making within their individual businesses. I think all the guests are really driven by a desire to make positive impact on their communities, which again, as listening to as a listener is really fulfilling.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Whilst I love all the series we've done before, I feel like we've really taken a leap with this particular series, and as you say, with the community, that I think a lot of the guests, really wanting to support and create difference within their communities or business journeys, but also themselves receiving that support from their own communities being really important. So it kind of goes two ways, really.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what one of the most powerful things that I really like about sort of the events that yourself and I run is that community and networking bit afterwards. Although all the guests love sort of the panel discussions and sort of the conversation in the room, I think that community build that we always have after the event and before the event is really, really powerful, because it, as I said, it does give them that sense of community, a sense of being that I don't think you can get anywhere else.
Yeah, and I think it's really important, isn't it, to recognise the space in between these events in terms of before and after. And I say that when I run retreats, it's the space in between those things where the transformation and change really happens. It's kind of, we've laid the scene and the foundation for the conversations that continue outside of that room.
Yeah, of course, as I said, it's that sort of before, during, and then the after piece as well. And I said that's the bit that sort of ties, especially this series, all together really nicely.
Yeah, and the beauty of the internet, one of the women who attended the event told me that she'd seen it that day in the morning on Natwest's Eventbrite, and just thought, that sounds amazing, I'm going to go along. And she was one of the last people at the event, chatting afterwards, and just, it felt a perfect fit for her that day, which was great to hear.
Yeah, perfect. And that's exactly what yourself and I set out to achieve when we're looking at putting these events on. It's that information, educational insight, which is really powerful. But actually, as I said, it's getting the entrepreneurs in a room, in that safe space, that environment where they can sit down for that 2 hours, 2 hours and a half, and just be around like-minded individuals and have that community sort of that's propelling inspiration and enhancing that across the room.
Yeah, and enhancing that belonging. I think you use that word, which again is so important for women, because traditionally we haven't always belonged in, or felt that we've belonged in those places. So what is the Women in Business team at NatWest? Can you share a little bit more with us about what you do and how your customers benefit?
Yeah, definitely. So at NatWest, we've been supporting women entrepreneurs with a strategy since 2003 and started to train our frontline staff in 2012. We have now over 1,000 women in business specialists who are specially trained to understand the barriers that women face in setting up and scaling our business. Our Women in Business team sets the strategy for the bank across each and every year, and looks after sort of the national partnerships, along with the training and the communications that we all see out there in the media outlets. And again, this is then filtered down into the frontline staff through people like myself who work within the enterprise delivery team to go and sort of put events, activities on for female entrepreneurs. I suppose through then execution of the strategy that is then set, customers are then provided with sort of tailored financial solutions, networking opportunities, and educational resources, all designed to address the barriers that female entrepreneurs face. I suppose as a generic customer walking through the NatWest doors for the first time, I think having access to 1,000 women in business specialists for support and guidance to help them, 1, start, 2, scale, and 3, grow is really, really important. And I think, as we alluded to a couple of moments ago, I think fostering that supportive community where women can connect and learn from each other and share experiences is really, really powerful. yeah, that's sort of the women in business team and sort of how female entrepreneurs can benefit.
Yeah, and amazing that you've been running that project since 2012. So, I'm sure it's gone through iterations and lots of learnings and things like that. What inspiring projects are happening in 2024 at Natwest to support women in business?
Yeah, so within 2024, we've got three main focuses this year. One being access to finance, one being business growth, and the third being international trade. The main priorities are around that business growth journey for the entrepreneur, and we're working with some great partners this year like By Women Built, Digital Boost, We Connect, and many more. So keep an eye out for those, and I'll definitely be able to share those with yourself. So the listeners from this podcast, if they are interested, they'll be able to find all the links to the activities that we're doing with those partners that I've just mentioned.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Luke. Now, what's inspiring you personally for 2024 and where can we find you?
Yeah, so for me, 2024 is quite a big year and sort of outside of the professional workspace. So for me, it's all about personal growth. So whilst being that busy professional in a corporate environment, I do like to challenge myself quite a lot, and I'm really into my health and fitness. So I've got a few fitness competitions and activities lined up for 2024, and sort of really thrive of learning and developing a new skill set and taking them into action. And as well as this, I'm also getting married this year. So I'm looking forward to a new dynamic for personal growth as I sort of start that journey with my partner as a married couple. So really looking forward to seeing what that holds as well.
Oh, amazing. Congratulations, Luke, and good luck with all your personal goals as well. And as we said, we're going to post some of the links that you mentioned that our listeners can contact you at NatWest. And is there anything else that you want to share before we go?
No, as I said, I will. All my details will be within the podcast bio. You can find me on LinkedIn, Luke Pamphlet. And yeah, if anyone wants to learn about the NatWest Accelerator or what we do at NatWest, please feel free to drop me a message on LinkedIn. Either contact myself or Lulu directly via email. And yeah, we'll see how we can help.
Amazing. Thank you for all your support on She Rebel Radio for 2024.
No, and thank you once again, Lulu, for putting on another fantastic series, a really good event that we held, and yeah, look forward to 2024.
You've been listening to She Rebel Radio. We thank you for listening and thank our headline partners NatWest for sponsoring this series. If this episode has inspired you, please pass it on and share with at least one other incredible woman, and don't forget to hit subscribe and leave us a review. You can find out more about me and my work at lulumins.com or on most social media platforms.